Listen, I'm easy to find. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.
What's up, YouTube? It's Nathan back with another video presentation. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all staying safe, having a great week so far. This is episode 7. Yes, episode 7, season 7 of Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. Before we get into the video, there is a few things I need to set front. I am still in the process of uploading season 6 on Anchor, so please be patient with me. I think we're up to episode now 5 or 4. I think it's 4 or 5 that we're in so far that's being uploaded. So I'm hoping to have the whole rest of the episodes uploaded tomorrow, going into Thursday and Friday, and we're all caught up in terms of episodes. So please be patient with me. I know it may be off, but we did have some things outside of YouTube that does come first. So I do apologize on that end of the ship right there. Couple other things that's coming down the pipe. I got another video after this one. It's going to talk about Adam Jones and the Baltimore Orioles. Yesterday I wanted to go live, but I wanted to sleep on it and make sure that I said the correct and precise thing, and the correct, be politically correct, and make sure everything I'm going to say about the Baltimore Orioles and this situation with Adam Jones is clear and precise, and for y'all to understand where I'm coming from that perspective. I do at some point plan on talking about the Washington Wizards and what they need to focus on in the offseason, what I liked about the regular season and what I didn't like about it. So be tuned in. Tune in for that. The NFL draft is upon us. It's almost here. We're going to do a recap of the first round grades like we did last draft. And I believe, correct, I might be wrong on this, and if I need to do some fact checking, but I believe we're actually coming up on the anniversary of my podcast. I think we're 1 year. I think it was around this time 1 year ago today. I may be wrong. Let me just check. I believe we started. It was in, I want to say it was around this time. I'm sorry, we started in June. So in June, it'll be a full year, because I started doing other videos. But June 12th, yes, it was June 12th, will be 1 year of my podcast. I cannot believe that. But that's besides the point. Also, too, what's also coming down the pipe, we're 1 week away from the WNBA season tipping off. I do want to do my pre-rankings for each 12 teams before the season starts. So you'll probably see that video Friday's tops. So definitely be tuned in for that. The Mystics, they play Indiana as the home opener. So definitely be tuned in for that. Like I said, with the NFL draft, like I stated, we're going to recap the first round, get the first round grades, draft picks for each team. We're also going to do the Ravens grade. We're going to do the Ravens draft grade and the Washington Commanders and their draft grade as well. We're still going to keep up with baseball. Trying to get, like I said, we're right now in the midst of the playoffs. And then the title of this video, we're just talking about the Boston Celtics sweeping the Brooklyn Nets and the Miami Heat defeating the Atlanta Hawks tonight. So we're going to talk about that, and that's going to be the video. We still got plenty of basketball to talk about, but I want to focus on these two. For me, I think it made more sense to just go at it by the end of each game. If there was if the series ended in a sweep or they advanced in 5, I'm going to recap the games like that going forward. So let's start with the obvious. Get my water real quick. The Boston Celtics swept the Brooklyn Nets. Final score. You know what? I'm not going to lie. Final score was 116, 112. You know, I had high hopes for the Brooklyn Nets this year. Last year, their season was decided in 7 games by a toe on the line. This year was really riddled with a lot of questions, a lot of inconsistencies. Kyrie Irving obviously was not available for the home games. James Harden and that snafu, they only played 3 games together. Then KD was out with an injury. So a lot of lineup changes. Let me just say this for the record. I am not a fan of super teams. I've never been a fan of super teams ever really since the Big Three in Boston. Even with LeBron and going to Miami, I've never been a fan of super teams because the one thing that I find alarming when a super team is formed, you're top heavy. And it's hard to find guys that are going to sacrifice or you can afford to help your team. When I looked at the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, I mean, they didn't have Joe Harris. So there's a couple things they're going to have to work on in the offseason, but I want to focus on this. We have to give the Boston Celtics the respect. Jason Tatum, to me, is proving that he's a top 10 player in today's game without a shadow of a doubt. He outperformed Durant in this whole series. Let's just call it what it is. Even in Game 3, he had 29 points. 39 points compared to KI and Durant. I think they had 32 combined. And to me, when I looked, I want to give Jaylen Brown some credit too, because at the beginning of the season, we were hearing stuff like how these two can't play together, and these two have gelled really well. I think the biggest thing with the Celtics was just trying to figure everybody out in the beginning of the season, figuring out the chemistry, working out the kinks, and it's worked. Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams, they have been got the bench. They have been, that to me was the biggest advantage going into this series. I think was one of the reasons why they won Game 3. And then Robert Williams coming back off his knee injury. I feel like even though they're going to ease him back into the rotation off his injury, especially he did show flashes in this series. The biggest thing is also, too, you got to give Coach Ike Ime Udaka. You got to give him credit. He's learned under the great Greg Popovich, and the toolage that he's taken from him, and he's let these guys play basketball. But the one thing I've noticed about this series, all 4 games, Game 1 was decided by a point, Game 2 by 7, 3 by 6, and then Game 3, 6, and then Game 4 by 4. Like, you do the math, that's 18 points. What else do I want to say? Nick Claxton missed 18 free throws. Like, let's keep it real. We can talk about that they didn't have a great series, and they didn't have a great series. But I'm not going to ignore that they kept the games close. Like, I think, and I had to do my research on this, I believe it was the 2017 Cavaliers and the 1975, I want to say it was the Warriors. I want to say it was, the Bullets. We got swept by the Warriors. I think we were the Washington Bullets by that point. because the Cavaliers, I think they swept Indiana, if I remember correctly. But look, another thing I noticed that to me that was kind of noticeable. Andre Drummond. Was a little confused of why they weren't used as much. I think coming into this, I did the calculations. He only played 60 minutes throughout the whole series. And to me, I think that, yes, I kind of can see why Claxton was out there, because he's a better defender, but he was a liability from the free throw line. Blake Griffin, I was disappointed that he was not used practically all year. He didn't play. He did not touch the floor until Game 3. He only played 18 minutes last night, and I mean, also too, by the fourth quarter, he was out. He was no good. I think the biggest issue for Brooklyn going into the offseason, you have a rotation that you obviously have to fix, because these guys are all making the minimum. And even though Blake Griffin was a nice pickup, it's like how can I say this? They just didn't use him in the right way. They didn't use him the right way, the way I thought they would have. And that hurt them. Now, I knew it was going to happen the moment they got swept. Is Steve Nash, does he need to go? Yes, I understand. Steve Nash has no coaching experience. Steve Kerr had no coaching experience. Doc Rivers didn't have no coaching experience. But this was Kevin Durant's guy. They built their relationship when KD was in Golden State. And I remember doing a video about this a while ago. I said, look, obviously Kyrie said we don't need a coach. And we don't know if there was a disconnect. I'm not going to make that assumption. But to me, looking at it, hindsight 2020, there are some things that there have to be changed. I do think they're going to have to figure out, one, we all know Steve Nash is going to come back, but he made a lot of adjustments. For example, Durant he had Durant the elbow. He had him in situations and screens 1-2-1 zones. Also, too, like, he has made adjustments. The biggest thing is, I mean, let's just call it what it is. What are you going to do about Kyrie? Most likely he'll stay. But the biggest question is, what are you going to do about Ben Simmons? You traded for Ben Simmons in exchange for James Harden. And Mr. Ben Simmons is nowhere to be found. I thought it was stupid to even have considered to have him even play as early as Game 2, because I think you're throwing more gasoline to the fire. Why would you have him out there and I just don't see what, even though I think on the defensive side, he'll bring a balance. But offensively, he's a liability, because last time we saw him on the basketball court, he passed up a wide open dunk. At some point with Ben Simmons, and then what bothered me was then you heard he had a back injury. The one thing, and I can attest to this as participating in sports, you got to try. even if Ben Simmons just played 5 minutes, hey, thanks for trying. That's it. We're not asking you to, I'm not saying he got to go out there and play all 48. He's got to give me something, because teammates look at that. When you're in that locker room, guys look at that and go, damn, like, wow, I can't rely on him. I'm not saying, look, I can't rely on him on the court. And at some point, I knew it was going to happen as soon as we found out he wasn't going to play. You hear about Rich Paul and come out and trying to calm the storm, but the disaster had already occurred. Like, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do about him. Me personally, if you're Brooklyn, move on from him. I think you're going to have to build. You're going to have to try to find something. You're going to have to try to get some pieces around Kyrie and KD, because those two are your bread and butters. Now, my concern is going into not next year, but 2023, because if you're paying attention as sports fans, and I'm going to call it right now, when this CBA expires in 2023, these owners are locking these players out. Guaranteed. Because I really think, because of what you're seeing what you saw from Ben Simmons, and Kyrie, I'm not gonna get on Kyrie like others, because that was a choice, and I respect that. But if I'm paying a guy $170 million and you didn't even try to get on the basketball court, I invested that kind of money, and that's the return I get. So I think you got to figure out that. But also too, it's just something about super teams. You're just so top heavy. It's hard to find guys that can take the minimum to sacrifice their money to come play for you. Again, you got to think about Joe Harris was out, so you got to get him healthy. And you just got to go back to the drawing board, regroup, and they'll figure it out. Now, I do believe Steve Clifford, he might take the Kings job. God bless him. Mike D'Antoni, he'll probably stay. But I think the biggest thing is figure out what you're going to do with Kyrie, Ben Simmons. Kyrie will most likely, he's made it clear he wants to stay in Brooklyn. So he's probably going to get like, what, $247 million if he signs the extension. Then you've got, obviously, then you get the Ben Simmons, like I stated. What are you going to get? What are you going to get out of him? Because I just think, look, I would like to see him on the basketball court than looking at him more about his attire. I just don't understand that. So you got to figure that out. And then also too, like, this is what they're going to have for free agency: Marcus Aldridge, Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton's a restricted free agent, Goran Dragic, Andre Drummond, you have someone named David Duke, and Blake Griffin. And Patty Mills can opt out of his contract. And also too, LaMarcus Aldridge, he didn't even play. So like they've got some work to do. I still think that they'll be a contender next year, but it says to me also as well that I'm disappointed. This is a very disappointing year if you're Brooklyn, because you got two guys that are champions. And this brings me to my next point. We all know this earlier today, with Kevin Durant on Twitter going after Charles Barkley, because Charles Barkley basically said, if you don't walk around like you won the championship, you weren't the bus driver. I understand when he went to Golden State, he was not the bus driver. But I would have thought what he had learned during his time in Golden State, I thought I would have seen a different animal when he got to Brooklyn. I thought I would have saw that. I saw that last year because again, the series was decided by a toe on the line. I know what Kevin Durant is capable of going out there, but at first when Chuck said it, I'm like, what? But then when I went back and listened to it again, I understood what he was saying. When you're a star, I've said this before. I would say this is in any sport. Stars, they get all the praise. They get all the glory. I mean, they get all the praise and they get all the criticism. He did not have a great series, other than Game 4, where he had 39 points. You have to will your team. You have to be the reason the others follow your lead. Now, Kevin Durant reminds me of a guy he's an alpha male, but he's not the alpha male where like LeBron James, like Mike, Kobe, Shaq, not like those guys. Kevin Durant is a guy who just goes out there and just plays basketball. That's just KD. KD is kind of, he reminds me of a guy at any job you work. He doesn't need the recognition. He doesn't need the little awards. He just does his job. That's what Kevin Durant kind of reminds me of, if that makes sense. So I got what Chuck was saying when I played it back about the bus driver, excuse me. But I do think in some way he kind of did discredit the others, because the others do play a role to help you deliver. There's instances where the others will help you get over the hump, but stars are always held to the higher standard. And I thought when he tweeted the pictures of Chuck when he was in Houston, let's just keep it real. Chuck was older. Hakeem Olajuwon was older. Clyde Drexler. That Houston team was old. When he got drafted by Philly, even though the year before Philly had won the championship, he was drafted in '84. Chuck was on a team with an older Moses Malone, an older Dr. J. Chuck, practically for what I think up until '92, he carried that team on his back. I think he missed the playoffs 1 or 2 times in Philly. And then when he got to Phoenix, yeah, he was MVP, but let's keep it real. He did face the greatest player of that decade, Michael Jordan. I don't just for the record, I don't do that greatest of all time stuff, but that's all that's another video. But I'm just saying, I think obviously KD was sensitive, and just this is just me. You know, these athletes today, these guys are sensitive. I mean, we can't criticize, we can't do anything without them having a response, going on to social media and clapping back. I see it on Twitter all the time. And it's amazing to me that when we give these guys praise, we're either we don't hear the, hey, thank you, hey, you know what, if I thanks for the kind words, all this other stuff. If I'm sitting there going like, man, Kevin Durant, you got to get in with the 20 points. I'm not watching the games. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just amazing with these athletes today that no matter what, because we're watching the games and we can criticize. We're not getting personal, but let's keep it real. He didn't have a good series. But to move on from that point, my point is this. It's plain as simple as this. I know Kevin Durant is going to take this season and it's going to make him better. Because mark my words, the Brooklyn Nets are going to the Eastern Conference Finals next year.
Guaranteed.
Now, I also too think that in some way, shape, or form, Boston too. Like, I'm not trying to take away anything away from Boston because they just were just a different team, and I can't wait to see them most likely play Milwaukee because that's going to be an interesting series with Middleton out. I want to see how a team like Milwaukee is going to respond to a team like Boston. But you're Brooklyn. You guys just take the good with the bad, fix the issues, and hey, you just got to hold each other accountable, plain and simple. But I thought what KD did, I thought that was very, to me, as he's one of my favorite basketball players. I thought it was very sensitive, and I thought also too. You're comparing apples and oranges, man. You're comparing apples and oranges, and look, say what you want. You know, if this was LeBron James, we are all on him like there's no tomorrow. But also too, the media also too, ladies and gentlemen, I've been very consistent with this point. If you've watched me for quite some time, the media is really, really good at controlling and spinning the narrative. But that's my spiel about the Brooklyn and Boston series. Now, let's transition to the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat advance. Jimmy Butler did not play in this game. Victor Oladipo, my man, pretty much carried this team. I was not really surprised. I picked the Heat to win in 6. I don't know what to really feel about this one, to be quite honest with you. I mean, Atlanta, this one looking for the same team that was just in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I don't know. But the final score was 97-94. The last few seconds of that game was very interesting. They locked down Gallinari. He couldn't even get the shot off. He had 12 points. John Collins had 7. Hunter had 35. Capella had 2. Trae Young had 11. They shut him down from 3. 0 of 5. Collins was 0 and 3. Kevin Huerter, he had 12. I mean, the difference maker to me was Oladipo and his energy. And I've also too, I like the fact that they really, really did well without Jimmy. And I think that they just really showed you how to control and win a playoff series. Limit your mistakes, which was 1. And even in game 4, I will say this, I think they had 6 turnovers. I think if I remember that stat correctly, that's 1. And then number 2, I like the addition of PJ Tucker. He showed it last year in Milwaukee. He's just, to me, a good defender. But also too, Atlanta was just outmatched. Sometimes, they could have went small. And I feel like in some situations they did, but they just didn't have that. They just really were just outmatched. Trae Young had to play great the whole entire series. And he couldn't have a bad night. Now, Kevin Huerter and the others around him definitely had to step up, yes. But again, that's to me what I saw this whole series. Now, if you're the Hawks, I felt bad that Cam Reddish, he didn't get the opportunities I thought he would before he was traded. again, this is another question mark to me. Did you just take the bad with the ugly, the good with the bad, and try to figure out what do you do going into the offseason? I mean, you're pretty much going to get everybody back. I know the biggest thing last year was the John Collins. Do you trade him? But he's going to look to get paid at some point, and I'm kind of disappointed too. This was another one. I mean, this team was literally in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and I mean, y'all let me know y'all thoughts. How do you feel? My money is on. I think the Atlanta Hawks will be. I think they'll probably keep. In my opinion, I believe that they'll keep the same team for sure. Yeah, just take your hat off to the Miami Heat, and I believe that they'll play. Let's look at the standings really quick. The playoff picture. I think they'll play. Most likely be Boston. Let's see. No, they'll want to play the winner of the Toronto Raptors or the Sixers. I believe, okay, this might sound crazy when I say this, but I believe the Raptors and Sixers game is going to go to 7 games. Guaranteed. Because the Philadelphia 76ers should have already swept these boys. There's no way that it's now 3-2. I got to give Scotty Barnes, I got to give him some love. He's played through some injuries. That Raptors team, man, I was just the energy, and I think just the will to not quit. I'm really liking that from the Raptors. But the Sixers, I'm disappointed. They should, when you're at home, when you have a chance to close out a series on the road, your mentality is we gotta win. Let's shut the door now. I think Philadelphia has been too cute, and now they're starting to the wheels are starting to come off the tracks. So I could see this series definitely go into 7 games. And sadly, in my personal opinion, the Milwaukee Bucks, they will advance to round 2 to face the Boston Celtics. Zach LaVine's out. The Bulls don't have a chance, in my opinion. They don't. Biggest thing for me with the Bulls is their health this whole season. A healthy Bulls team, DeRozan, Lonzo, Zach LaVine, scary. The Minnesota Timberwolves will not. Well, the Memphis Grizzlies will advance to the second round of the playoffs. Guaranteed. The Timberwolves, I think after Game 2, they've shown me that they're very young. They got some growth. They got some do some self-reflecting. To me, I think when it's just something about watching that game. I'm going back to that. I'm using that game as an example. Your opponent scored 21 straight points, and you did not call a timeout. I have an issue with that. Because as a coach, you have to say, okay, let me help you get over this hump. Let's figure out why we're not scoring and why we're not getting easy baskets. I wouldn't know how to feel if I was on that bench and I'm watching. We were up 20 somewhere. I think it was 25, 26, and then they score 21 unanswered points and lose that game. I don't know how to feel about that. I really don't. And John Morant and Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to call it. The Memphis Grizzlies are going to the Western Conference Finals. Guaranteed. The Golden State Warriors are beating the Denver Broncos. They're going to beat the Denver Nuggets. I'm sorry. Guaranteed. I feel bad for the Joker. I mean, without Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., he can't do it by himself. I mean, he's doing everything he can. I do think they need to help him make a certain adjustments, particularly when he's posting up. Yeah. And man, can you imagine a healthy Jamal Murray and a Michael Porter Jr. there? It's a different ball game. The Dallas Mavericks will beat the Utah Jazz. Guaranteed. I'm not so. I've officially gotten off the Jazz wagon. It's just something about their perimeter defense that I'm not liking. I last night was a clear example of that. They're leaving Rudy Gobert out on an island by himself. They're not helping him on defense. No, I don't think they need to break the team up. I do think they need to look for some defenders because these guys, I don't understand. Like, they're going small, and I don't think Rudy should be in there. There's sometimes a series is not for everybody, but at the same time, I'm looking like, why are you just leaving this man out on the island? So, and then the Phoenix Suns, they beat the New Orleans Pelicans. They lead the series 3-2. I'm convinced. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to call it. The Suns will win in 7. Guaranteed. So y'all let me know your thoughts about the playoffs so far. Who is your surprise team? Who is the most disappointing team? Who do you got going into the next round? Who do you got see in the finals? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, be tuned in for future episodes of the podcast. Excuse me. Like I said, I got another video coming out about going live in a few minutes. And also, too, you got the other stuff, NFL draft, WNBA preseason rankings, Ravens and the Ravens and the Commanders draft grades. I'm going to continue to recap the first round of the NBA playoffs. And that's pretty much that's going to come down the pipe for right now. So be tuned in for those episodes. But really, also, my closing message is, again, I just want to thank you all for the support that you're giving me in this channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to give me suggestions in the comments. What would you like me to talk about in the podcast? Can we're also going to consider hitting that like button, comment, and subscribe, along with notification bells on. I just take accountability, learn and grow from your mistakes, and just learn to be a better person going forward. Look forward, never look backwards. That's my closing message for y'all. But until then, like I said, be this next episode, we'll talk about the Baltimore Orioles and Adam Jones. And because in that video, be tuned in. But I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Peace out, y'all.
Listen, I'm easy to find. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.